I'm not there. I'm here, within the jungle. Capricorn season. The beach, the vortex, the field. Today's Monday. Just came back from the beach. It was such a beautiful moment. It was very windy and it was very sunny. And the air was crisp and the water was salty, crisp as well. A little bit violent, but not too much for me not to venture in. At times, I think about the vortex where I live, where these lines meet and create this energy field that makes me feel so home, connected, and where I can almost measure the qualitative energy that makes me connect to other dimensions. The sea, the water, the salt, the wind are all elements that I can feel with my senses. But there are other parts that are not to be sensed in a physical way, felt either emotionally or more through me, with a different authority that is the authority of the divine in me. Ta-da! The chart, the release, the celebration. I just looked at my astrology chart and I'm like, holy shit. I just had the transit in South Node in Virgo conjunct my 8th house Pluto over the weekend on December 20th. I was aware of it for months as I have been intentionally worked with it. Yet I forgot about it during the new moon and Mars on my South Node squaring, transiting Saturn and Neptune, which have been squaring my nodes in Capricorn, Cancer, and Ceres the last months. But then I realized, girl, you've done good. You released a lot. And I'm not going to go through all the details of what happened to me last week because I've been processing so much data, so much information, while I've been rewiring my nervous system in the last 9 months or so. That is just a celebration for me right now. There was a breakthrough and it was huge. Grateful for that. Ta-da! Capricorn season, the spine, emotional wavelengths. Nothing more Capricorn than the grind. I've been building. I've been slowly waiting. I've been ascending, descending, ascending again. I've been waiting. I've been patient. I've been impatient. Oh, I love Capricorn season. Why? Because that's where my South Node is. It is not just familiar, but instead of pushing back familiarity, I embrace the beauty of it, how it builds slowly, slowly. And then with time, you can see how things mature, how they're shaped, or where the direction is heading. What I learned through the studying the spine, the 33 vertebrae, as a research for my new book, is that it can be flexible, it can be breathable, it can be gentle and protective. It can bring and embrace and embody wisdom with time, patience, and care. The moon is integrated as a polarity point of what real authenticity, authorship, and authority mean, an awareness of emotions that need to be embodied, felt, more than understood. See, emotions are wavelengths. In order to embrace them, one has to let the wavelength be. With its difference in frequency, some peaks have different time frames, and allowing them to be expressed and to have their own timing too. That is important. So it's neither all loose or everything constrained. This is the Capricorn season. Yeehaw! Ta-da! The 12th house, asking for light, glimpses of 2025. When I know all these personal planets will line up in my 12th house and that I cannot see them, I could only ask for the light to reveal them. And I'm here restudying biogeometry right now, so BG3 becomes one of the ways I name that harmonizing quality when the field feels coherent. The liminal space is a place where the twilight merges with its higher harmonic of ultraviolet, described as an energy quality found at dawn, associated with the realm of spiritual manifestation and ritual where angels dwell. They will be revealed during the full moon on January 3rd. But because I'm building that time frame, I started seeing the glimpses of joy. And when finally the shape of 2025 took form, as I was slowly allowing more space to be built, this last week has been amazing in that sense. I'm looking forward with patience. I'm not there. I'm here. Ta-da! No synthesis yet. The build-up, Saturn's last touches. Not having a synthesis all the time is a great thing in times of restructuring. Humanity is in the middle of building something absolutely brand new. There is no synthesis yet. There is an initial idea, and then there's the grinding of the buildup. And then with time, we can look back and say, holy moly, this painful and dark side was actually the edge and the beginning of the new. It's interesting. I could do the synthesis of my 2025, and that's closing with the south node of the moon that still has some reverberation, and it is still within a 2-degree orb, as it's just happened. So in the next 2 months, I'm going to get the synthesis of this immense year of inner value and outside quietude, giving meaning to the second part of the title of my book, The Architecture of Value. While this happens, I'm already building the platform of the future, and it still cannot be concretized, but it has these strong foundations. I'm in the exercise of strategizing how I would like my life to unfold, as Saturn will finally leave Pisces on February 13, 2026 at 7:11:39 p.m. Eastern Time. It will completely remind me that my second Saturn return that started in March 2023, almost 3 years, has been very fulfilling and supportive, as both my identity and the architecture of my value were being reshaped in a different view from my first Saturn return back in 1994, which is when I moved to New York, to the United States. And right now, which I have been considering in the last 3 years, if I should stay here or should I move. And I've decided that this question is still a big question. But the more I look at my chart and the chart of the United States, I know that there's a reason why I'm living in this vortex that I live in, and my chart and the chart of this country are faded. I mentioned I'm taking time back to restudy biogeometry, which I did with Dr. Ibrahim Karim and his daughters at the end of 2023. The courses were intense, but the info needed to land properly and the structure needed to be shaped. And right now, while Saturn is doing the last touches in Pisces, it has given me the glimpse of its nature and reminded me how during 1996 and 1997, Saturn in Aries supported me to become a real artist. Right now, I'm getting ready for Saturn getting into my third house, which is going to be amazing because the structures that I'm building are more about how I'm going to be communicating from a place where I am right now after building the architecture of my value. Ta-da! Evolutionary timing, the middle, the correction. This article wants to remain in the build phase and refuses fourth synthesis because the evolutionary work is happening in the middle, inside the tension, inside the training. Yeah, there's no resolution yet. It's just knowing that we're building towards there, the future. Venus in Sagittarius now squares Saturn and Neptune. It means that there was a seeking for idealization. It's a third quarter square. Venus is asking, what do I need essentially? How to return to my inner needs and values, and how to get leverage before I commit to another structure of another relationship or another way to embody this reality that is fading and being resurrected. Neptune is actually telling me at 29 degrees of Pisces, hey, it could all be an illusion. So make sure that you understand that there's a veil and there's also no boundary. That's what Neptune is doing with Saturn as well. So the vow is about the correction, holding myself, understanding it. Mars in Capricorn. Mars is also a three-quarter square with Saturn, Neptune, and Ceres. It is slowly going through my 12th house, Capricorn, and is still revealing what needs to be seen before it crosses my ascendant somewhere at the beginning of February. Last time Venus and Mars initiated a new cycle was on February 22nd, 2024, right on my ascendant. These last 2 years, oh la la, they have been quite formative of my new individuality and liberation at the same degree. That day, the sun was on my Saturn, giving light to a structure that was starting to be reshaped before entering my second house of values. You cannot make these things up. Astrology is math, it's harmonics, it's a guide of the journey one has chosen as a path. Let me decode my plan. Hell yeah. And that is what I do for myself and for others who are ready for a reading with me. As I serve the alchemy of these sciences, bringing light to each soul when we meet and when needed. Jupiter still squares Chiron, giving us some beautiful gifts. So, the days before the full moon on January 3rd, the evolutionary instruction is simple: keep building, keep listening, keep sheltering in a safe place. Ta-da! The vow, the gaze, projections. My current practice is a vow to my life. Dear reader, while I'm still building in my body, in attention, in time, is that I choose to stop tracking the gaze of others. In the past, in my nervous system, I remember having the image of connecting the dots. I wrote about it months ago in an article called The Gaze of Others. Here's the link. That's what gave me some very important material that I work with in harmonics and points in my chart. When Uranus was in Gemini, connected to my mom's Chiron, landing in my fourth house, and I suddenly realized, boom, that if I'm being judged by the world, by others, by friends, by enemies, it has nothing to do with me. It is a memory that I've been carrying way too long. So I released it. And once I released it, everything started unfolding to where it is right now. I cannot give you a conclusion yet because I'm still in this process. But hey, the view from here is stupendous, delicious. It is yum, yum, yum. I like that I chose to stop tracking the gaze of others, to measure myself through, and stop living inside other people's projections and looking at my own projections. That's when everything started to unfold. When I saw that I was projecting, I was that little girl that wanted to be seen and held, and I started holding me, and that's when everything transformed. Ta-da! Fasting as memory, purging, a previous nodal return. I was thinking about the times in my previous nodal return when I did a lot of purging. That was between June 2006 and December 2007, but it became more physical. It was that purging. I was invested in understanding my body from a different perspective. Uranus was in Pisces on my Chiron. So it was giving me shocks of how to embody and surrender to the direction of my life as the North Node traveled through my second house of needs and values. While at the same time, Saturn was in my seventh house in Leo, a creative outlet of how to create a supportive relationship to people, situations, and things. I remember I started making a lot of money with my artwork. I had a set of loyal art collectors that gave me a boost, yet I had to still integrate the value and validation are not projected but internally felt. It was also the beginning of my public art commission work, but I still needed, at the time, the infamous middleman. I still did not understand fully what was the architecture of my value. I needed another round, and so I did. I took time to do it. The fasting period started then because I was purging physical life. This time, the purge reads through GNM, German New Medicine, deep adaptations that resolve through the body when the conflict completes its arc and the crisis marks the release. It's a different way of seeing things. Ta-da! The history of fasting, sacred practice, the jungle. The history of fasting. It is very interesting to see how certain ancient practices become part of the cultural trend. You know, yogis doing acrobatics, but not understanding that the yoga itself has 8 limbs. And to be able to hold a posture or an asana is part of the breathing and meditation practice of such an ancient technique to quiet the mind, not just tone the body. Another one is fasting. Fasting is a way to connect to the divine. Nowadays, you hear people, oh, I'm going to fast for 3 days so I lose some pounds. Since when we became so disconnected? Since when we just take the top layer of the foam and we make of that something banal? Fasting, I used to fast a lot back in the mid 2000s. I started fasting as a meditation practice, as a way to empty my body of food and connect to the higher self, to the divine. through a process of quieting the mind and also not having the body have too much energy spent, so I could truly get into myself. It was fantastic. I did water fast, I did juice fast, I did bone broth fasting. It was around the mid 2000s where I started practicing Taoist meditation, and that's when the fasting became part of my routines. I did it on and off for 2 to 3 years until I realized that my yearning to go and live in a mountain as a monk was futile because the real yogi or the real monk lives within the jungle. Fasting lives inside the oldest spiritual technologies because it shifts perception through devotion, it clears the noise field, it refines attention, and it makes prayer practical. In India, it appears as the upavasa, staying close to the divine. In Jain practice, as discipline, purification, and vow. In Buddhist practice, through Uposatha, days of restraint and observance, in Taoist lineages, through fasting and grain avoidance as a way to quiet desire and strengthen inner listening. In Judaism, through fasts that mark atonement, mourning, and return. In Christianity, through desert fasting and the 40-day rhythm of Lent as an initiatory passage. In Islam, through Ramadan as daily humility, remembrance, and reorientation, and across many indigenous traditions through vision fast, where the body becomes the altar and the world becomes a mirror. Footnotes. BG3 is Dr. Ibrahim Karim's term in biogeometry for harmonizing subtle energy quality, used as a reference standard for balancing and measuring energetic compatibility across living systems, spaces, and objects. It becomes legible through three subtle energy components. One, horizontal negative grain, described as the carrier wave quality with strong communication properties across subtle energy levels, and frame as a doorway into other dimensions. Two, higher harmonic of ultraviolet, described as the energy quality found at dawn, associated with the realm of spiritual manifestation and ritual. Three, higher harmonic of gold, described through the symbolic field of gold and halo, and treated as a resonant key you can tune to and detect. Number two, now when those water veins, when they cross at the crossing, they create a vortex, and so this energy vortex creates the power spot. You know, they fly in a V formation, and when they come over a sacred power spot, they start circling around it, circling as if they feel an energetic vortex coming out, so the vortex pulls them into. Ibrahim Karim recently in a YouTube conversation called The Shocking Truth about how they build the pyramids. Okay, guys, happy Christmas and just be well, be happy.